Stephanie Fleming, and you're watching Champions Corner. Corner is brought to you by the H.E.R network on Zingo TV channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores and iOS and Android devices. While you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. This app is completely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, and Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 forward. Today I'm joined by my co-host, Matt the Milkman Kendall. Matt has over 85 professional fights, and we actually have some really exciting news coming up for Matt. I've recently taken on the role as his manager, and if you continue to tune into Champions Corner, you're going to see some exciting news coming up from Matt. Tonight's other special guest is Warren the Destroyer Thompson. Warren is a professional mixed martial art, a professional Muay Thai fighter, and tough as nails. And you'll learn why in a little bit. But Warren, why don't you start everybody out and tell us a little bit about how you first got involved in Muay Thai?
Pretty simple with me is I was a late bloomer in high school, rode the bench in about anything I tried to play, and from elementary school up. And kind of right out of high school, I was like, you know what? I want something competitive. I feel like I'm getting more athletic. I'm getting bigger, stronger. And I met a guy that worked at a local gym here in Atlanta. He's like, dude, come in here and try a class. I went in there and got my butt beat by a 150-pound Brazilian the first day, and I was like, I'm hooked. Sign me up. And here we are.
That's awesome. Warren, you also have kids. Are your kids involved in the sport as well?
I'm in my daughter's room right now because it's the only quiet room in this house. But yes, I have a 4-year-old son, a 6-year-old daughter. They're in the living room playing Incredibles and arguing over the controller. And they go to the gym with me. My daughter does a little jiu-jitsu and kickboxing. My son, I call him Paulie. His name's Sawyer, but I call him Paulie because he's like his sister's little manager. He's the water boy, brings her all the stuff. But no, he has no interest at all so far. So, but I won't push him. I'll support it. If he wants to be in the band, I'll support him to do that. Could care less. So.
That's okay. Behind every professional athlete is a support system. So he can be her support system. Maybe she'll be the one to be taking over and knocking out little girls.
Yeah, she's pretty athletic already, so who knows?
Awesome. Matt, let's jump off with a question from you.
Yeah, first and foremost, congratulations on that amazing fight you had in that heavyweight tournament. Now, for most people watching, it's not a tournament like you see on Glory or the other tournaments. It's not multiple fights in one night, but it's a road to the Lion Fight title. Hats off to that. A phenomenal fight. I watched it a couple times. I had watched you fight at a very much smaller weight at 185. My first question for you, what is the difference you're finding carrying around that weight, fighting at this weight versus 185?
So I've fought as low as 178 when I was younger, cutting a lot of weight from 210 to that. I always walked around 205, 210, 215. And then I would cut and be a really big 185er. Now, cutting weight to me was I was having like blood pressure issues up, down, fainting before making weight many times, getting probably knocked out when I shouldn't have, from what I know, water around the brain helps. I would never cut below light heavyweight now because I'm a small heavyweight, 230, 235, 240. I would never cut below 205, 207 now. But in my younger days, everybody preaches. They're like, oh man, you cut as much weight as you can to be competitive. And I did that, maybe to my detriment at times. But I feel a lot more healthy because I'm a food addict like anybody else. I like to have a good meal. I can eat me a big steak and potato every Friday night. I can have, 1 or 2 beers and it's not a problem outside of fight camp. And it's worth it to me to carry the extra weight. Now, it is a little more hard on my joints as far as knees and certain areas as far as running. I had to change the swimming sometimes. I'm learning as I go with that. But I fought heavyweight a couple times, just not this big at heavyweight. I'd walk in at what I walked at, 250, 220 and fight,
Yeah. It's very interesting. I myself, when I first started the sport, I was a late bloomer as well. When I cut down from when I started training, I used to play football. I was about 230 pounds. And with 8 months, I was fighting for a Canadian title at 147 pounds. Oh, I swear there was large breed dogs that were heavier than me. It was the worst thing possible. Cutting weight has got to be the stupidest thing ever. I would never do it again like that. Hats off to you because man, anyone at that weight throwing anything is dangerous. And you carry it well. You look if physically a physical specimen, I would say, opposed to the other athletes that aren't really looking the part, but not to shy away from their or to turn down their skill.
Right.
Their ability is there. Yeah. Now, my second thing is, and because we're going to get back and we're going to talk about lion fight and we're going to have lots of stuff. I see that you had some kickboxing experience, and I saw the way you moved, very light on the feet, very moving. And then that's why my question was about the weight. Is there a preference for you fighting kickboxing or Muay Thai?
So I like the kickboxing, the fact it's 3 rounds. You can go very fast pace the whole time. There is times in the Muay Thai fights being 5 rounds, you have to, I came from MMA background anyways at the beginning. So there's spots that you have to kind of chill or rest or, get out of their cone of violence per se, take a breath and move back in. And kickboxing, they don't like that. Now Glory will tell you right off the bat, like, I don't care if you get knocked out or whatever, we'll bring you back if you bring the fight. And that was a lot of me. I'd fight anybody, anytime, any weight, like short notice. But I'd always bring the fight and stay in the pocket, stay where they could hit me. Now, smartest thing, maybe not, but you always get fights again. You're always making money that way,
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't say I have a preference. I know just each is different in their own way. It's kind of I can use more of a more fight IQ per se in Muay Thai versus in kickboxing. I kind of got to go,
Yeah. Before I throw it right back to Steph, though. Now, do you feel you carry any of your kickboxing abilities to Muay Thai, where a lot of traditional Muay Thai fighters are very stationary, one punch, one kick, where I found your combinations really flowed heavily, and I saw a little bit kickboxing out of you.
Yeah. I do feel it is an advantage, minus when you get inside of like the A range where elbows can happen. If you walk into an A guard, constant pressure, you can get elbowed. You're just a kind of a set target in that A range for elbows, which you're not used to. You're used to hiding in this high guard and being fine. Well, now you put elbows in there, they can get through that high guard. So that's the only difference is you need to move a little more in, out, offset angles instead of just staying in that A range and trading. You can't really trade quite as much with the risk of an elbow there.
Steph?
Warren, I want to circle back to the North American heavyweight title tournament and your fight against top-seeded Cody East. That was quite an entertaining bout. I know me and Matt definitely enjoyed that one. But to me, what really stood out was the 5th round. Like, it shows heart and guts when someone can really push in the 5th round, and it shows like the heart of a true fighter. And my coach always embedded it in our minds that like the 5th round is the most important round. It's the round that stands out in the judge's mind. It's the round that everyone watching the fight has left in their mind and their impression. Can you tell us a little bit about like the 5th round and if you think that was the round that really pushed it over for you?
Oh, for sure. I coming into the fight, he was saying that I couldn't take his punch or whatever. I had no chin, and I get hit a lot in training and in fights. I've got knocked out, no doubt, a couple times. But it's about the punches you don't see, really. If I can see them, most of the time I'm okay. And at heavyweight, it does slow down a little bit, so I was able to brace. And he did rock me, I think, in the 1st or 2nd. It buzzed me a little bit, but I was fine. And I rocked him a couple times. But in between the end of the 4th, every round I have my doubts. I fight these fears like any normal guy. I'm like, man, I'm more tired than him, or this, that, and the other. Why ain't he quitting, or whatever it may be. You have your doubts. And so I asked my coach at the end of the 4th, I was like, am I winning? And he said, no. He said, it's even. He said, if you want to win this fight, you make a show right now. As soon as it started, his corner yelled the same thing. They said, he was kind of lolling a little bit. I was getting him. His corner said, we told you, Cody, if you want to win this, it's a toss-up. When that happened, when I heard that, just reiterated for me. I said, get him. And I could feel him just more tired than me. And that just gave me an extra second wind. And I train for that in the gym all the time. Like, I'll be the one sparring the 22-year-olds 20 rounds in. These guys are just laying on the mats, and I'm still going because they got the better of me 8 rounds. And so it just was normal to me. I felt right at home.
That's awesome. You must be really excited. Speaking of Lion Fight Promotions, a great promotion to work for, producing lots of talent. One girl that popped up in your newsfeed that we've also introduced, Andy Nugent, also fought on the same card as you. What did you think about her bout against Crystal Van Wach?
So both those competitors, I respect them both. They're both very nice people. Start by saying that. I thought Andy, she put on a clinic that night. She was very aggressive. It seemed like there was some bad blood there for whatever reason, and she showed up and fought well. And I fought on cards with her before at Legacy and whatnot. We have a lot of mutual friends, and she just seems like a pretty genuine person and a good athlete.
I agree. Matt, why don't you shoot off the next question?
Now, going back to the fight, something I was very surprised and impressed with, you carry a lot of muscle. You're very big, which takes a lot of oxygen. And now Cody, you wasn't as in shape. And when I was first watching, I was expecting you to gas a little bit. And just seeing, and then hearing that second win come in. What have you done in your training to allow for that? What cardio, what is something that you're doing that is helping you carry that extra muscle and perform when it matters?
So if anything, and I mean, I don't think everybody should train like I do because I'm a mental head case with it sometimes. But I train 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. And then I do a couple hours of rehab, stretching, hot tub, that stuff on top of that. I'm an overtrainer if anything, but I'm either a guy that's all in 110%, or you fight me or see me fight and I train 3 times a week and I'm total crap. So I knew this is my last hurrah. I'm 35. I retired 3 years ago. I said, this is a Cinderella story for me. I want to go out knowing I controlled every variable that I could control. It's me versus me. If he beat me, hats off to him. He beat me, but he was going to get the best me at least I could give. So I broke my fibula a month before the fight and had a stupid moon boot on. And I talked to the doctor. I'm like, what can I do? He's like, swim. So I swam every single day. I'd shadow box in the pool. I'd put my boot on. We'd hit hand pads, boxing. And we saved it up for the fight. I hadn't thrown a kick in a month. And then when I threw that right leg kick the first time, I was like, okay, it didn't break, throw it. It worked out.
Warren, did you also tear your meniscus as well before the fight?
Not before the fight. The second round, he did like kind of a step through judo throw, and it popped my knee. The end of the second round, which may or may not have been legal, but it just popped my knee funny. And I was like, oh, okay, that was weird. And it just felt funny to walk on. And then a couple days after the fight, I went and got it checked out and tore my meniscus.
Brutal.
I mean, that's fighting. I mean, here's the thing. Every friend I have, Joe Elmore, whatever, tears rotator cuff, break his hand, he's still fighting. If you really want to win, you'll go past as much as you can. If you want out of there, you'll find any excuse to get you out of there. So
let's put a disclaimer in there. You also are followed by a very good therapeutic team. They oversee your recovery. So it's not like you're going out on these injuries and you're just managing your own self. You're going through the right practices when it comes to rehab and caring for yourself post
100%
injuries as well. Did you want to talk a little bit about that? Because you've been doing.
I would love to.
Yeah.
Dr. Orlando at Innovative Health, he's a chiropractor, but he has an MD and nurse practitioner on staff. I'd never been introduced to platelet-rich plasma for like joint injuries and recovering faster. I'd never been introduced to that stuff before. It's like pre-stem cell stuff. Shockwave therapy, they use to break up kidney stones. Now they're using it for injuries and to heal them faster. Ultrasound therapy. And then obviously I'm doing my ice and heat too. And then also something called a microcurrent machine. It's not a TENS. It's a smaller current. It's what T.O. used to be able to play in the Super Bowl. It's sending these, you put it on for like 2 hours a day, and it's sending these waves you can't even feel to the area and helping the bone heal faster. I used all that stuff. So, I mean, every day, I was treating myself. And it's something I've never done before. Had I done this crap at 25, maybe I'd have fared better in a lot of fights. I don't know.
Yep.
But I'm just very thankful for these guys over at Innovative Health and Dr. Orlando. Really motivational quotes every day, hey, don't be so hard on yourself. We know you're hurt, but your mind's there. He's like, that's the most important thing you can have. You want to win. And I just, stuck to the process. And by fight night, I was probably 85%, 80%. I started jumping in the ring. I could feel it on my leg, but I was like, I'm going to be okay. So
That's awesome.
Now, taking the physical and taking care of your body like that, can you tell the viewers what it's like to be a heavyweight, Muay Thai, kickboxing professional? What does a diet look like you on a day-to-day? Run through your daily intake when you're in fight camp.
Okay, so fight camp's obviously much different than regular everyday life, but I try to eat good 80% of the time. So that would mean no beer, not too much fried stuff or bread, stuff like that. I will do my macros at like 250 grams of protein a day. My carbs will fluctuate depending on the day between, 150 to 500, just depending on how much energy I need. And then a moderate amount of fat, some, krill oil for the joints, some almonds, stuff like that, almond butter. Every day I have an almond butter sandwich. I was 260 last summer just lifting weights when I was retired, just lifting weights, but not a great in shape too. I couldn't run a mile, Yeah. We got into fight camp. I come down to, 235 or so and I'm eating almost any amount I want because I'm training so much, 5-6 hours a day. I just can't keep the weight on. But it's a very comfortable weight for me, eating like that. I feel great. There's no weight cut. If I am hungry after a session, I can load up on white rice and glucose, and I'm ready for the afternoon session. Whereas if I was fighting at 185, man, I'd crawl in that place. So,
yeah.
So it's a
big difference in feeling fueled for your workout, not having enough to sustain that amount of work. Mm-hmm. So it's a great point that you're making.
And I also know that heavyweights do hit harder. But the jaw, neck, trap structure, shoulder structure of a heavyweight, the muscles around your neck are way bigger and stronger too. So you're actually it's really your neck. When your neck is very strong, your chin is going to be better. It's that fast spin that knocks you out. So I work my neck every day with bands, neck and trap every day. And that really can help you if, you get hit on the button, you don't see, anybody can go out. But the shots that are negligible, you can maybe fight through those a little bit if you're, spending your time building the muscle in those areas.
See, that's a very good tip. What about out of camp? What's your guilty pleasure? What's your, hey man, I earned it? What does a day look like when you're out of camp? You want to fight? How does that look?
I'm a beer drinker. Me and my wife like to enjoy Corona or Busch Light, something like that. Cookies. I eat a lot of cookies. But not during the week. I'm good, but then I binge bad on like Friday, Saturday. I'll eat like 24 cookies. Like I'm bad about that. Those are really my only two things. Other than that, I just eat normal because if I eat bad during the day, I just don't feel good. So most time if I am binging, it's in the evening or on the weekend.
Very nice.
Awesome. Okay, I'm dying to ask. I'm really excited. There's tons of buzz around this upcoming fight. You're going to be fighting Joe Stripling, and that's August 9th, I believe. Or
I've heard 2 days. August 9th and 27th, maybe sometime in August. Yeah.
So definitely tune in, guys. And like I said, we'll keep updating you guys of the exact dates, how you can get tickets and that kind of thing. But that's going to be a really exciting bout, another heavyweight bout, but this time with the title on the line. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you think that fight is going to go, what you're doing to prepare? Have you watched tape? Those kind of things.
I watch tape every single day. He's a phenomenal fighter, a true sportsman of, Thai fighting. You can tell he watches tape. He changes fight to fight. He has very good setups, entries, and exits. It's going to be a very tough fight for me, and I know that, and I'm going to bring the very best that, I can bring. I've already started, preparing myself as what I can. Obviously, I'm still a little injured, so camp won't start, obviously, for a while. But I'm skill building now, coming up with a game plan with coaches. I won't predict anything right now. Obviously, I respect him a whole hell of a lot. I just need to prepare and be the best me to give myself a chance to win.
Yes, and that's a great point too. And that's how you make the exciting bouts like this bout is going to be, is both of you guys have so much mutual respect for one another that you're both going to put 110% into this training. Another thing I wanted to ask you about in relation to your injury is there's like a theory often. I'm a registered massage therapist as well, so I work with physiotherapists, chiropractors, that kind of thing. But one thing in like sports rehab is like if one aspect of you is injured and you're a professional athlete, often that means that you have time to work on other things. For example, if you injure your right shoulder, you're going to work on your jab if you're orthodox, like those kind of things. So I'm just wondering, like, how are you making the best out of this injury now? Like, are you taking the time to train other skills?
Yes, 100%. Just like you said, like my coach taught me that from a young age, and that's why I fought hurt or been able to compete sometimes hurt. It's an art of 8 limbs. One goes down, you have 7 others, 2 go down, you got 6. So I'm a glass half full kind of guy. Obviously you want to be healthy going into a fight, and in your training, you're preparing what you have. But fighting and training is kind of like having a kid. It's never perfect timing, right? You just have to jump in and go. You'll procrastinate the rest of your life getting ready for a fight if you do that. So you get as healthy as you can. You're injured, but you get as healthy as you can, and you compete with what you got.
Awesome. Matt, you want to shoot off the next one?
Definitely, those are some words to live by. Something I've struggled with throughout my career, and trying to tell this new generation of that is coming through. I agree. I see them and I preach to them and I tell them there's always something going on with them, problems that they can't deal with and why they can't perform. If there's one thing I could say to people now, to the young generation, compete as many times as you can. Compete in Muay Thai, compete in kickboxing, compete in karate, compete in point fighting. It doesn't matter. Compete. That's the one thing that actually makes us different from the Europeans. The Europeans absolutely compete in everything, and they have that advantage. Yeah. Absolutely.
They get a higher fight IQ. They're comfortable being uncomfortable. That was a big step up for me in Glory when I went from, I beat Brian Dow's a Dutch heavyweight, and it's like, wow, no Americans beat the Dutch. You're signed to Glory. And I was like, okay. Then they started kicking the tar out of me, and I was like, what's happening? I wasn't ready yet for the amount of ring experience a lot of these guys had. And, I was thrown in the fire a little bit. And I would say kind of like the stage got to me. And as I get older, that retirement stuff, when I came back, I'm a little wiser now. I didn't know all these things 5-6 years ago. I thought I knew things. And I'm sure when I look back in 10 years, I'm like, wow, I probably know things then that I didn't know now. And that's the hard thing as a fighter, is finding the right mentors, finding the right coaches, and listening to them, because they've been there. Manu had been there, Kumpan had been there, and they were telling me things to do that sometimes I overlooked. And now I look back 3-4 years later, it's like, Coach, I hear you. I remember that conversation, and you were right. And that's big. That's totally big. And as you say, just listen to your coaches, fight as much as you can, compete as much as you can. And that's literally the best thing you do, is don't overthink this stuff.
Yeah. Now, so you coming up to August, we're talking about a lot of time coming up. Grateful that you're able to recover. What does a day in the life of fight camp look for you? What does it look like? Run us by. You said 5 hours a day. Run us through a typical day for a fight.
Yeah, I get up 6 a.m., help my wife get my daughter ready for school, eat breakfast, coffee with each other, stuff like that. We go off, head to work. She heads to work or works at home. She's an accountant and like a controller for a mortgage company. And so depending on where she is that day, if she's home, I'll leave my son here. If she is going into the office, I'll take him with me to the gym. And I do strength and conditioning in the mornings. If I have my son with me, it's limited to 2 hours, because that's as long as I can leave him in the daycare there. If I don't, I do 2.5, 3. I take my time stretching more so. Then I come home, eat lunch. We all eat stuff. I hang out, rest, nap, whatever, till about 2:30 and pick up my daughter from school. Then I'm getting ready for the afternoon training session. That starts at between 4 and 4:30, and I train till 6:30. And then I teach Muay Thai in the evenings 4 days a week at my local gym here. Just amateur fighters and whatnot, and sometimes some other pros stop in. And I come home 8:30, 9 o'clock. We wind down and do the same thing the next day. And that's normally Monday through Thursday. Friday, I have a little more leeway because I don't teach Thai class, so I can train during the day more. And then Saturday or Sunday is normally my day off. I play that with how my body feels. So Monday through Friday is 2 a day. Saturday or Sunday is a single. That would be about 2.5 hour session, and Sunday would be off. And that's the week.
That's it. And now we were talking about recovery, and we've already dappled into it. So your rest day, typical rest day. Let's call it the Saturday, Sunday, the day that is there a day that you don't do anything? Is there a day that you just totally active rest? Or
yeah, that would be, I normally don't active rest unless I'm feeling antsy, like close to a fight. I may go lightly swim and sit in the hot tub, but I'm burning minimal calories. Like this fight, I had a lot of anxiety because I'd been out so long. So I'd keep, even on my rest day, I'd go, hey, tell my wife, hey, I'm going to the gym for an hour. I'd sit in the hot tub, stretch, swim around a few laps, like nothing extensive at all, just loosening up, keeping my mind moving. Because if I'm idle, I'm an anxious person. I don't ever like sit still. So if I'm idle, I kind of would let my mind get the best of me. You're like, oh, a plane could hit the building. He could knock me out. It's just very bad stuff. So I'd rather keep it moving.
Yeah.
I hear you. Something you recently posted really struck me, and I feel like we need to have this discussion because you need to like drive this into young kids more and more, I think. And that's about the importance of foundational work, and how you're never a fighter too good to go back and learn the basic techniques or rework the basic techniques. You're never too good to do class. Why do you feel like that's such an important message? Because I completely agree with you, but just let everyone know why that seems so important for you.
Because I learned it the hard way. A couple years in, I thought I was out. I got this. I'm the best person in class. The pros that used to be, they're, high level or just retired, they're out here having fun sparring, and I'm going to go out there and spar with them every day. And then my coach came. He's like, "What are you doing in here? Why aren't you in class? You haven't been in there in 2 weeks." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sparring, whatever." He's like, "No, you need to get in class." And I didn't understand it at the time. And so I reluctantly would go in a little bit. And, mainly it's because I felt like he was using me to teach the students, which I do now as a coach. My guys I bring up, they help teach the students. And, I was like, "Oh, man, I don't want to do that." But you really have a grasp of things when you can show somebody else. Like, I'm going back through the ABCs of how to do this. I'm really showing I have a grasp of those things. Plus, now in my older age, there's not a day goes by that I don't start out my workout with basic line. You shadow box line drills, working your footwork, you cross your feet. I start with that every single day. And Lord knows I still cross my feet sometimes in fights, but I work it. I work the foundation. I do basic round kicks. I work a basic jab. I may take a round on the bag. I'm like, "Hey, this is my left hand. I'm working my jab and my 3 and my liver shot, my 7." And I build up. I progressively build up. So still to this day, I rely back on foundational work. A lot of kids I have in my classes now, I'll train them a year or two. Next thing you know, I see them come in the gym an hour late and they just meet their buddy and they spar and they leave. I'm like, one of my students got ready for a fight and he did that and he lost. And I'm like, "Man, you haven't got any better in a whole year. You got in shape twice because you had fight camp. But you have not gotten any better. You're the same person." And so now I started back class. So I think class, your foundational work, it's amount of making you better because now you're getting better timing with it. You do the same motion 1,000 times. You do that on time in a fight, that makes the whole difference in the world.
And no matter who you are as a fighter, we all create bad habits, and having an extra set of eyes to be like, "Hey, you need to get yourself out of this bad habit." It makes all the difference in your fights. It's not about going in and looking fancy and throwing, flying elbows and flying knees in your second amateur fight. Yeah, right. See Stephen Walker do that, and it looks amazing with that tornado kick, but it's a different thing. He's practiced that thousands and thousands of time. It's not a kid trying to imitate that in his second fight, and that's why you got to kind of instill in children more, I think. So it's a great point that you brought up.
And I like to tell people too, like, I'm a blue collar guy. I'll never be able to do what Stephen Walker does, but I have my strong attributes as well that I can, a will, a heart. I train very hard. I'm able to come up to whoever I'm fighting. I'm able to rise to that level to rub shoulders with those guys. You don't necessarily have to be all flashy and fancy to fight at a good level.
Exactly.
You find what works good for you and you work at it. You can make things happen. And so I don't know. There's more than one way to skin a cat per se.
Definitely, I agree with you completely. Matt, any final thoughts before we let Warren give a shout out to his sponsors or his team?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that Stephanie brought that up, and we've talked about that a million times. Even myself, I'm that blue collar work ethic. Tons of fights, nothing flashy, meat and potato basics. Basics gets the wins, and it's something I always preach. I have a place in my heart for fighters that go full circle. And they give back and they teach. And you saying the things that you said, it brings little goosebumps because that's what I do with my kids and my students. And I really respect that. I respect the fact that you're able to pull yourself and say, "Hey, this is what I have done wrong, okay? And I need you guys to come in and do class." I've actually done the exact same thing. I was that person that stepped away and didn't do class. And it really matters. That one thing I was going to ask, other than instructing, is there a full-time job or something? Are you dealing with a work day other than just training for fights?
So I'm very blessed to say no, I am not. My wife is our breadwinner here. She works very hard. She's very smart, very supportive. With the 2 young kids, I mainly am more of the running the errands and take them to the gym with me, whatever during the day. COVID obviously changed that a bit because now she works from home a lot, and she was able to do that productively. And so now our job let her work from home a good bit more. So that's been beneficial actually to my training. I have a lot more free time. And she's so supportive. She's like, you know what, as long as you're an honest man and doing what you say you're doing, I fully support you. And so it's been great for me. A lot of guys don't have that. Everybody talks about like everybody's not rich and famous in this, right? I've been able to travel the world and I know a lot of people, but I didn't get rich or famous off this. So it's a blessing to have somebody that supports my dream, through good or bad beside me.
That was exactly my next thing. Explaining to people and letting them understand the support system of having a spouse or someone that's there for you. I'm in the exact same position as you are with my lovely wife. It's the exact same thing. I'm very blessed. Can you please explain, because that is a part of the camp, and that is a part of that is overlooked from everyone. They're the people that have to deal with everything, the weight cuts and everything. Explain that for people so the spouses get that shout out.
It is a selfish existence when you're in fight camp, guys. And I hate to say that because I try my best for it not to be, but there's times I'm tired, I'm sitting on the couch at night and I'm ignoring everything she says. And, and then the next day she'd be like, hey, I had to get the kids ready for this, and this. You didn't do this around the house. And I sat back and like, man, okay, let me do better, but when you're cutting weight, it's even worse. And that's been a good benefit about me fighting heavyweight. I'm a lot nicer around the house than if I'm cutting 30 pounds. But you know what? She knows how much this sport means to me. And it's the only thing I've ever, besides her and the kids, loved in my life. And she wants me to make one more run at it. Win, lose, or draw, she's there to support me. I could lose, and she's going to be the exact same woman that she was when I won. The exact same woman. And that's so important for me. I couldn't have picked anybody else to take this ride of life with. Like, we have our problems like anybody. It's work. But if you're a fighter, the friends, the supporters, don't burn those bridges because it's so important. These people are more – I think some athletes, when they talk about sponsors, like, oh, you can sponsor me. It's more like they are doing you a favor, son, for sponsoring you because this is so hard and so expensive. Any sponsor you get – it's not like people are beating down their doors to come give them business because they sponsor you. Maybe if you're Conor McGregor, not if you're Warren Thompson. So these guys are helping me. My wife is helping me, my sponsors, my doctors, all that's just out of the goodness of their hearts. And I think that's important to give back, to say thanks for those people. And for these young fighters, the young wave's coming and you may be it now, but in 5-10 years, you're not going to be that. So be thankful for what you have.
100%. I agree. You got a strong woman, it sounds like, behind you. You're lucky. Where'd it go? Matt, shoot off another one.
So for me, exact same. You once again, I say the goosebumps because I live that. I was in a situation before where it wasn't that, but I found my person, and that it really helps. Once I was with my wife, my career elevated to a level that I didn't even understand that was there. I always believed in myself, but having someone believe in you and giving you that run, which I hear you say it, it's amazing. If there's one thing, if your kids went and asked you, can I fight, or would I like to fight? Would you encourage? Would you turn it away? How would you approach if your kids wanted to have a career in fighting?
I am open-minded to it. I think there's more dangerous things than fighting, football being one of them. The way we practice as kids, I mean, I took more headshots there than anything. So I would support it, but I would not push them to do anything. Like I said, my son could ask to be in the band, and I will support him. I'll be right there on the sideline screaming and yelling just like I would at a fight. Whatever he wants to do or whatever my daughter wants to do. And as of now, my daughter's the athlete, but you never know. That may change. When I was a kid, my sister was the athlete. She can still throw a football 50 yards. I still can't throw a football that far. Things change. You never know.
Yeah.
100%.
Going to the weight cutting, and I know you don't weight cut now anymore. Mm-hmm. I love to ask this for fighters because there's so many different ways to cut weight, of the pain, of how we're going to get through this pain. When you were cutting weight, what was your go-to method of cutting weight?
So I was very lucky. George Lockhart was a good friend of
Oh
mine.
wow.
I would train
huge
him and hold
name.
pads for him in Muay Thai. And we'd spar together. We're all great. Me and Bryden Stan would all train together. And so George would help me with my weight cuts for a few until I got it down pat. And, I'd help him a little bit with striking. And that was a blessing because it made it so much easier than it was before I had him. But my go-to is, I'd almost get myself within 10, 12 pounds. He would be real good. I won't give any secrets away, but real good with how to deplete the glycogen and the salt at the right times and stuff like that. And it would almost fall off. I got to sit and play video games and lose 5 pounds throughout the day. And then I hop in the sauna, a few pounds, and I'm there. And I'm like, wow. Then the next day, I'm 25 pounds heavier. It's just nuts. And if you get a good nutritionist, a good guy like George and Mike Dolce, even, I know they don't like each other very much, but they're both elite guys with that. They can help you a lot.
Mm-hmm. We have this guy, Matty Spesh, here. He took the Lockhart course, and he's doing huge things here in Toronto and Ontario. Have you ever traveled or fought in Canada?
I have not. I have several friends in Canada. I fought Rob Thomas from Canada. It was a great fight, and he got me at the end. Bazooka Joe's a good friend of mine. Todd Stout, we fought in Thailand together. So I know several people from Canada, but I've never been up to visit yet. But it's beautiful scenery, so hope to make it up sometime.
Here you go.
Of all the places you have traveled with fighting, which country stands out the most in your mind?
China was the most interesting of how they treated like the young people there. One morning we were in the bus and we came up. We were going to Shaolin temples and we crossed over a ridge and you could see on a plateau, like it was really foggy, but you could see through the fog there's things moving. And as we came over the ridge, thousands, and I'm not exaggerating, thousands of children with swords, like practicing all in unison. Cool. And I was like, holy cow. Like, we don't do that in the U.S., And then Thailand, though, was the most fun and the most enjoyable, and everybody was so nice, and it was just a blast. So Thailand was probably the only place I didn't get really homesick, but China was probably the most eye-opening, just like, wow, I'm not in the USA anymore. This is so different culture-wise, like a shock to me.
That's cool, though. I love traveling. That's one of the great it's one of the great parts about fighting is it takes you all over the world. Matt, you have another question?
I was lucky to go to China, too. I fought on WLF. I actually saw the exact same things, got to walk the Great Wall. So much rich history. I love that about fighting. What promotion did you fight under with China?
Oh, man. I can't remember the promotion now. I flew out there with Christina Toledo and her boyfriend and a couple other guys that had fought on Lion Fight at the time. I was young. I think it was my last amateur fight, but I got paid. It was an exhibition.
Yeah.
So it's been years ago. I can't remember the promotion, but it was on there. It may have been WFL or something.
WLF. I fought on that.
Okay, that may have been it right there. And it was televised in their country. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's funny when I went there to China. I went there and all of a sudden there's commercials and I was on this commercial. I was like, oh my God, that's me. And then I was getting ready to go to do the fight and my nickname's the Milkman. And then they walked up with this camera and they put this bottle in my hand and then they started speaking Chinese and I go, what? And I wear this Milkman hat, right? So I have my Milkman hat on. I'm like, what are they saying? And they said, smile and shake your head. And I go, that's my head. I'm like, what's going on? And they gave the bottle back. And then the guy that spoke English goes, you're on a commercial now.
I have a funny story about there, too. I just weighed in, and I go up to my hotel room. I get a knock on the door. I open it, and there's these 2 6-foot models, Chinese models there. And they're like, we're here to take you out to dinner. And I'm like, huh? And then they had the translator. He goes, they asked if you have a girlfriend. I was like, yes. And so then they take me out and they bought me this cool necklace thing, took me out to dinner and brought me back. Nothing, no hanky-panky stuff. Yeah. But it was just weird to me. I was like, holy cow, that's never happened. I want to stay here. And then after the fight at the airport, there was like hundreds of people with signs yelling. We had to get like a special, corridor or whatever to go down because they're into fighting there. And they love American people. And when they wrap hands, you have the gauze. You have to stay an inch back. No, it's straight tape. Straight tape to the hands.
And you can stack. You can put tape, stack, and then put the gauze.
It was nuts. It was nuts.
I've
never experienced anything like it. So it's top of like my experiences for sure. Maybe not of enjoyment, but just like, this is next level stuff. I've never seen this. Like,
it's a culture shock. And you said that before. I absolutely agree. Yeah. When I went, it was like the art of war. We were there for 12 days, and they took us through all the scenery. And then on the last 48 hours was the fight. Everyone was exhausted and overweight from eating all that salty food and beer on the table.
Yeah. Oh, and they have the giant lazy Susans. They just keep spinning this thing. It's like the 20-foot table keeps coming around.
Yeah, it's how do you not treat yourself? I mean, when I'm in camp, I don't drink. But man, when you're in China, you have a little bit of beer with your dinner.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I forgot about that giant table. And then the translator told me, when it's about the end when they start bringing fruits and replacing the foods. That's the last go round. But I mean, lazy Susan, like you have the lazy Susan, the little thing that spins with the salt shakers in the middle of the table, like in America. It's like that, but on a huge table, and just food keeps coming around.
Yeah.
Nom. Matt and Warren, I want you guys to both have a turn talking about, I'm not sure if you actually seen the article, but Natalie Morgan, who also fights with Lion Fights and also has a fight coming up in August, so stay tuned for that. That should be a good fight as well. She posted an article about the cost of training in Muay Thai, how people think that professional fighters are raking in a lot of money, when in actuality, when you take out the expense of these training camps, rehab, doctors, fees for medicals, et cetera, a fighter's take home is often very, very poor. And it's an issue that continues to prevail type thing. Can you guys talk a little bit about that?
Warren, you're the guest.
Okay, thank you. For me, she's totally correct. For me, it was now when I do talk about fighting, maybe I didn't get rich in money, but I got rich in contacts and people I met. Yes. That offsets costs big for me because like this doctor's office, all three of those guys sponsor me. So I get most of my medicals done. I get, my treatment, all my rehab stuff in there 3 days a week is free. So there's a lot of things that help me in that aspect. The guys who make my t-shirts, he'll do them at cost, and then I can sell them for more to make money for fight camp. I made more off sponsors this last fight camp than I did the actual fight. That all helps. And these are people that come to me that it may be a little bit for sponsor. It may be a lot. Some people are like, hey, I don't want to be on the shirt, but I just want to throw you a couple $100 to buy yourself a steak dinner while you're out there. That stuff adds up. That's why I tell a lot of guys, it's like, I mean, you got to be yourself. You can't be fake. If you're a prick, you can't be fake and be nice to get sponsors. But don't turn your back on these people. If they call you and wish you luck, I've spent every person that texts me, or every person that messaged me, every person that commented, I try to say thank you to. And that's big to me. Same thing if they tell me happy birthday on Facebook. I spent 1,000 comments. Thank you. And by the end of the day, I'm like, holy cow, please nobody tell me happy birthday. But it's just important to me. Yeah. And I think that's big. If you're going to be a fighter, is get the contacts, and if they'll help you, do whatever you can to hang on to that, because people don't understand you don't get paid a lot doing this unless you're a huge household name. You're more rich in the friends, the traveling, and the atmosphere and the experience. The journey is the prize in this. So that's all I really got to say.
And I think that's a great point. Gratitude goes a long way, and I understand what you're saying, because being on UFC Fight Pass is a huge platform. It brings you to an everyday kind of consumer who doesn't necessarily just watch Muay Thai, but also watches mixed martial arts. So viewers you might not have gotten to watch your fight now are tuning in to watch your fight. So yes, I understand what you're saying.
I want to add one small thing,
sure.
And it's difficult. I don't want to downplay anybody. But I wish in the United States and sometimes everywhere we had a little bit more of it's watered down sometimes at the pro level, as anybody can kind of turn pro in most states. I wish there was a little bit more of a farming system, because the more quality pros you had, then the promotions would be more, force their hand to pay these guys a little fairer wage, instead of they can just pick fillers if they need to, and a couple good names, and then that's the card. So sometimes it's watered down to an extent, and I mean that no harm to anybody else. I wish everybody success, but just as a fighter, sometimes for pay for everybody, it can get watered down, because you can turn professional in fighting fairly easily. Yeah,
agreed. When you say you become rich with experience and travel, I had never been anywhere until I started fighting. I walked into a gym at 25 and I hadn't been anywhere. And now I've traveled the whole world. I've had probably over 60 or 70 amateur fights. I'm 6-1 as a pro. I went from beginner to C class, B class, A class, prestige league. I literally rose the ranks in the amateurs. I made more money in amateur fighting than I did as a pro. That because as an amateur, people want to help the amateur. They want to help me out. I had more sponsors, more people were willing to jump on. When I went pro, the difference was that actual money, and then sponsors fell off. It was really hard for me to come up with that extra money. I tell my wife all the time, I'm in debt from fighting.
You have a false concept of it. Yeah.
If I could ever get that money back, I would never change a thing. I would still do it again.
Yeah. Because we love it. We love it. You know, it's hard to explain to people that don't do it. Like, you really want to get bashed. In Thailand, I fought Brian Dowles. He had 80 fights, the Dutch heavyweight kickboxer, beat Rico. Ended up fighting him for free because I didn't place high enough in the tournament because I got hurt. But I knocked the number 2 seed off, and I fought him for free, and the guy had 80 fights. Well, I do it again. Why? Because I love it.
Because it's fighting. Yeah.
It's fighting. Like,
since we're on the topic of amazing fights and loving the sport, make a dream matchup for me. Anybody in kickboxing or Muay Thai, legendary or current, each of you guys have a turn making a good matchup.
Man, I hate to not be entertaining for you, but at this point, it's me versus me. Anybody I can get in there with. I am so blessed to be able to train every day, to be able to just get ready for a fight and have another chance at this in a fight camp. I swear they could put a clone of me, and that'd be the Super Bowl for me. This next fight, Joe Stripling is my Super Bowl. I want to fight Joe. So I hate if, I didn't mention, to me, Joe's a legend right now. He's the top name on my plate.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. You're focused.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice to hear.
And he deserves that respect. He deserves that respect. This guy's done just as much as me. We neither deserves to lose, but somebody has to. He has all my attention.
Absolutely. And having him on the show and you on the show, you're both carry that same energy. And it's hard to say because I want you both to win equally. You both carry that warrior spirit and that kindness. I love to see it. This is why I love martial arts. Me, I wouldn't pick that matchup for me to have. But if there's one thing I could do in life, I am a phenomenal pad holder. And I'm not trying to float my own boat. I literally am sought out for pad holding. I wish I could hold pads for myself one day. Always
you want to replicate yourself?
I want to replicate myself, keep myself in the basement, and when I'm ready, come down and be like, okay, you ready?
In the end, though, when I made that me versus me comment, everybody gets so worked up in the opponent. Yeah. In reality, though, when you control all the variables that you can control, it's you versus you. It really is. It's you being a 1% better you every day. And if you do that and prepare right, you're gonna succeed. You really are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. In the end, the result, it matters to other people more to yourself. We all know if you deserve to win or not. You know in your heart if you put it in. Right.
That's right. That's right. You can sleep. I could sleep well at night and tell my grandkids about the loss just as well if I gave my all.
Right.
If I did not, then I'm embarrassed.
Well, I'm going to shoot off what I always love to talk about, and that's women's combative sports. So I want you guys to tell me who is your favorite female fighter and why? Whoever wants to go first.
I don't follow it a ton, but Tiffany Van Soest, I like her a lot. I met her. We fought on a Card and Glory, and she's very talented and brings the fight. She's busy. That was the name that popped in, but I don't want to sound bad about that. I don't follow other fighters a ton either. But yeah, she's a very talented fighter, and I enjoy watching her fight.
There's a female fighter that honestly I always think about. She's a Team Canada athlete with me. We had our pro debuts together, everything. Janice Lin, she lives in Thailand now. She's part of the Mongkol Academy. I loved watching her compete. She'll never hear this or anything. I always tell her that, and I'll stay true to my word. Janice Lin is my favorite female fighter.
Do you know who else is I should mention? Honorable mention. Denise, I think Kleinholtz, Hezdi Gurja's wife or girlfriend. I saw her fight in Thailand. That girl is a monster. Like, I don't know if she's with Bellator now or what, but nobody knows who that is, look her up. She is a monster.
I have too many to name, but I'll give you the top 5. Katie Taylor, Clarissa Shields, Kayla Harrison, Jessica Camara. Oh, my God. Okay. and Chris Cyborg.
And there's that Taylor McClaff from Combat.
She's on tomorrow.
She's on tomorrow. She is phenomenal.
I love all those girls too, obviously.
She's on Lion Fight coming up, right?
Where's she train out of?
New Era Combats in Ottawa, Canada.
Yep.
Almost any of the girls out of CSA gym in California can fight. All those girls are good. Yeah, all those girls are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Taylor's on tomorrow, and Taylor's going to be fighting in August as well, Warren. So look out for her and tune into her fight.
Sweet, will do.
Matt, you want to end us off with our last question before we have to go, and also give Warren a quick shout out. I know he got to thank his coaches and his wife, but maybe just one more time.
If there's one thing that you could define yourself as a fighter that people will always remember, what would you say that your style what was one thing that people will remember about you?
So a guy I fought, Brian Collette, they beat me several years ago, and his coach coming in, he said, we watched a lot of tape on you, and then afterwards I've kept up with your fights. And he said, you are not the best, but you're not the worst. He said, but the energy you bring and how you fight, we're big fans of yours. And that hit home with me. That's who I am. You know, I prepare hard, I fight hard, I bring what I got to the table, and I let it out. And he hit it on the head. I'm not the best, and I'm certainly not the worst. But I'm a man of conviction, and I have a strong purpose, and that's what I bring to the table. And if my purpose involves me rubbing shoulders with the top dogs on any given night, sometimes I got it. And I think that's me in a nutshell. It really is.
I love it.
Matt, did you want to shoot there? Both of you guys want to say a quick shout out? I know, Matt, you might have a sponsor that you want to give a shout out to.
A couple of sponsors. I'll be real quick. A CBD company here out of Canada. I use them all the time. True 6 North CBD. It helps me with my CBD drops, my rubs. I swear by it. We have a new product, a Milkman product. It's coming out. We're gonna flash it out there soon. Healthy Planet has always been my supplement and have kept me healthy and geared for my fights. And my coaches and gyms, absolutely thank you so much. And my lovely wife, she's the best, and I love her to death.
Warren, did you have someone you wanted to thank real quick?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I appreciate you guys for having me on. Very classy. Thank you guys so much. And I just want to thank my wife and my family, my kids for giving me that drive, my mom and dad, my sponsors. Each one of them is a friend to me. The fight fans, anybody that sent me a message or a comment, negative or positive. Thank you for the fuel. Thank you for the support. And that's it. Watch me in August. I'll give it my best.
Thank you everyone so much for tuning in. Any potential sponsors out there, we got some great fighters coming out of Lion Fight Promotions that are looking for sponsorship, and I think Warren and Matt both gave great examples of how sponsorship can really make the difference in training for these hardworking athletes. The Champions Corner can be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. The H.E.R Network is part of the Spanglish World Media Network. Please check us out at spanglishworld.ca for all your news and programming. Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, live it. Thanks, guys. Thanks again, Warren, for being on.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. I had fun. Thank you.
Me too. It was a pleasure.